The morning of September 11, 2001, started like any other late summer day in New York. The sky was clear, the air was crisp, and millions of people were pouring a cup of coffee and heading to their desks. Kristen Breitweiser was rushing out the door to take her daughter to speech therapy when her phone rang. It was her husband, Ron, calling from his office at the World Trade Center. He told her there had been an explosion in the building next to his, but he was perfectly safe. He promised to call her right back. Minutes later, as she watched on live television, his building exploded. 2,977 civilians were murdered that morning. The shock and grief paralyzed the entire nation as families waited for phone calls that would never come. But as the smoke cleared, that grief hardened into a chilling realization. The government apparatus designed to protect the country had possessed specific intelligence on the hijackers for over a year. The state had not been caught off guard. It had completely failed to act on the warnings it already had. On the afternoon of September 11th, Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld issued an order to hit Saddam Hussein at the same time as bin Laden. The next day, President Bush asked his counterterrorism czar to find any link between Iraq and the attacks. Within days, the administration's focus was already shifting away from the intelligence failures of 9/11 toward a new invasion of Iraq. Grieving widows like Kristen Breitweiser refused to let the administration ignore those failures. They organized, appeared on television, and spent months pressuring lawmakers until the government reluctantly agreed to form the 9/11 Commission. This chart compares how the government funded that commission. Congress allocated just $3 million to investigate 9/11. That is a tiny fraction of the money spent to investigate the Monica Lewinsky scandal or the Robert Mueller investigation. Along with the meager budget, they were given a strict 18-month deadline. With such limited funding and a ticking clock, the commission was structured to manage the political fallout of the tragedy rather than perform an exhaustive search for the truth. The White House handpicked the commission's chairman. Their first choice was Henry Kissinger. He lasted exactly until his first meeting with the 9/11 widows, who interrogated him about his client list and asked if he represented any members of the Saudi royal family. He resigned the next day. To run the day-to-day investigation, they selected an academic named Philip Zelikow. The official press releases left out a crucial detail. Zelikow was an active administration official who had served on the White House transition team and co-authored a book with Condoleezza Rice. Before gathering any facts, Zelikow prepared a detailed outline of the final report. While his staff investigated, phone logs show he was in regular contact with National Security Advisor Condoleezza Rice, one of the primary officials whose conduct the commission was tasked with reviewing. Inside the commission, Zelikow siloed his staff into separate teams and restricted their access to documents. He personally blocked investigators from reviewing certain CIA and White House files, ensuring the final printed report followed his original outline. By installing a gatekeeper to lead the investigation, the administration ensured the commission would protect the very people it was meant to hold accountable. Because of that strict control, massive pieces of evidence were entirely erased from the official record. Take the collapse of World Trade Center Building 7. This was a 47-story steel frame skyscraper. It was never hit by an airplane, yet at 5:20 p.m. that afternoon, the building fell symmetrically into its own footprint at near free-fall acceleration. The 577-page commission report does not offer a single sentence to explain why it fell. Analyzing the failure became nearly impossible because officials immediately cleared the site. Unknown numbers of steel columns were loaded onto trucks and shipped to smelting mills in Asia before they could be properly analyzed. This graph shows the financial anomalies the commission also ignored. A put option is a bet that a stock's price will fall. There was a sudden spike in these bets against United and American Airlines on September 6th and September 10th. 95% of that trading volume against United Airlines was traced to a single institutional investor. The government knows the name of that investor, but more than 20 years later, they continue to hide it. The commission also omitted the fact that the CIA's dedicated bin Laden unit knew two of the future hijackers were already living in California. When an FBI agent assigned to the unit tried to warn the Bureau, his CIA superiors explicitly ordered him to keep that information secret. The final report left these physical anomalies, financial surges, and intelligence failures entirely off the balance sheet. The commission provided an account of the day that was missing the evidence required to explain it. Having successfully avoided any real scrutiny for their failures, the intelligence agencies used the resulting public panic to acquire terrifying new authority. Congress quickly passed the Patriot Act, followed by secretive programs like PRISM. These tools authorized unconstitutional property searches and the warrantless surveillance of the phone calls and emails of millions of innocent American citizens. Abroad, the overreach extended to secret CIA black sites, where hundreds were held without formal charges. The agency employed torture protocols, including sleep deprivation and waterboarding, extracting false confessions that further muddied the record of the attacks. The agencies that possessed all the intelligence required to stop the hijackers were not punished for their failure. Instead, they were rewarded with unchecked power over the American public. Look at the balance sheet of the last 2 decades. On one side are the losers, nearly 3,000 civilians murdered in a single morning, thousands of American service members killed in the resulting wars, and a population stripped of its basic constitutional rights. On the other side of the ledger are the winners. After 9/11, the CIA's public budget exploded by 500%. Beltway defense contractors became billionaires, and the politicians who failed to protect the country secured their re-elections. True patriotism is not blind compliance to a security state that hides the facts of its own failure. True patriotism is demanding the truth, forcing accountability, and honoring the fallen by fiercely protecting the freedoms they left behind.